America, we stand for freedom. Though freedom is never really free, we yearn and strive for government, protecting our liberty.
Good evening and welcome to the Fitchburg Republican City Committee and Your Right to Know. And I'm joined tonight as co-host with my friend, Mike Hallet. And Mike, thank you very much for joining us. You're usually on the other side of the camera, but tonight you're joining me behind the table, and I welcome you tonight.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
And joining Mike and I in co-hosting duties, and I might add, my name is Mary Lotze from the Fitchburg Republican City Committee. Joining Mike and I tonight is Shawn McKenna, Community Outreach Coordinator for the Worcester County Sheriff's Department. Thank you, Shawn. This is your second time with us also.
It is. Pleasure to be back. Thank you for having me. We had a great time the first time. I hope for a repeat appearance here today.
Well, I was reminding Mike here that the last time you were here, we shared the scene with a dog. We shared the scene with Nikita, the drug detecting dog, and that was kind of a lofty goal to have to try to rise above that beautiful dog. So thank you again for coming back with us. Tonight, I actually read all about what you're going to talk about tonight, and that is personal community safety of ourselves, our homes, our cars, our possessions, our children, our family. Mike and I are a little different. We come as a tiny different focus because I am, of course, an older woman, have certain vulnerabilities. Mike is a young family man with a wife and children who are home. When he's away, he worries about them. So we have a little different focus that we want to kind of pick your brain about tonight as we go through this. But just to set up for our viewers, what we're going to talk about is, you know, I always brag about Sheriff Lou. So here's my brag moment about Sheriff Lou. When Sheriff Lou took office, he had a lot of vision and a lot of insight on where he wanted the Sheriff's Department to go. Not to just be contained into a Sheriff's Department office, but he wanted to go out into the communities and help we, the people. And this is part and parcel, as was the iris scan and the drug detecting dog. But this is another one of the projects that he's worked on, which is a community outreach coordinator, and your position, helping citizens not become victims to crime. So if you could just sort of give us a little overview of how the position came about and what you do.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. At the Sheriff's Office, we have multifaceted operations going on at any given time. One thing the Sheriff did when he came in, he wanted to kind of put all of our public outreach programs under one central division of the Sheriff's Office, and hence Community Service, Community Outreach Division was born under our Special Services Division. And I have the great opportunity to go out, as you said, go to senior centers, go to fairs, go to community organizations, go on television, go on the radio, and talk about the different programs that we offer through the Sheriff's Office. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we do under community outreach are public safety initiatives. And the one that we're going to talk about tonight is Serving Time, Preventing Crime, Inmates in Their Own Words.
And that's a video.
That is a video, that is a PowerPoint presentation. It's nice, we take it to any event because it really goes across the board. We initially started out, we wanted something that we could take to the senior population and show where you're vulnerable when you're out and about, when you're at your house, when you're in your car. We went to a few senior organizations, senior groups. We gave the presentation and we found that not only did the seniors say it was a great presentation, but the aides that were there, the people that were working at the function said, this goes across the board. You need to show this to everyone. So we've really been getting throughout Worcester County, taking it pretty much anywhere.
Sure, I can see
anyone
PTAs,
that would like to see it.
church groups,
Absolutely.
All ages. I mean, I can see wanting this. So why don't we just jump right in and we'll start. Can we use the term interrogating you?
Please do. You have the bright lights on. Let's go for it.
Okay.
Well, I suppose if we're talking about this video, this presentation, how do people get in contact with you if they would want this to be shown?
Absolutely. You can call the Sheriff's Office directly. The easiest number is just the main line. That's 508-854-1800. That'll get you to the main line. You can just ask for Shawn McKenna, ask for a community outreach, and they'll just send you right over to my area. We can sign up. We don't care how large the audience is. The most important thing is getting the information out there, because if we can make one person safer, that's the ultimate goal. The nice thing about this program, we thought it was unique in the sense that you can have a police officer come in, you can have a sheriff's deputy come in and speak to you about locking your doors, being careful at nighttime, making sure you know where your kids are. We thought the nice spin would be, we have 1,200 inmates at the House of Correction and Jail. These are the professionals at breaking into houses, breaking into cars, committing fraud, committing crime. To have them show you their process, what goes on in their head, and the signs that they look for to affect someone's personal safety. We thought it'd be a nice spin, and I think it connects on a different level with individuals that watch the program.
Why do inmates do it?
Well, a lot of the times, I tell you, 85 to 90% of the population that we have at the jail are addicted to drugs and alcohol. A lot of the crimes that they commit are crimes of opportunity. They just want your stuff so they can transfer that into money to facilitate their addiction, whether it be buy alcohol, buy heroin, buy cocaine, any sort of drug. So a lot of the times, to answer that question is, they do it because they're desperate and they have an addiction. There are others that do it because they've fallen on hard times. They may be uneducated, they're unemployed, they have family members, they have things that they need, they steal, they rob for that reason. But as I said, a majority of the population have some sort of a drug addiction.
Just as, excuse me, Mike, because we do want to get into actually talking about the vulnerabilities, but this was in the paper, in the Sentinel, when I read the article about this program, and it says one inmate said a thief can slip in and out of a home in under 2 minutes, making off with anywhere between $1,000 and as much as $30,000 in valuables that are easy and to carry and run with. I mean, that's frightening.
It's amazing. We had no idea. We sat down with the two inmates. We screened them before we sat with them. And they were very cooperative. These were two inmates that felt remorseful. They wanted to kind of atone for their sins. They wanted to help people in the community. And when they said that, and that is in the presentation, it's in one of the videos we show, he says, I'm in and out of there in about 2 minutes and I can get it off with anywhere between $1,000 to $20,000, $30,000 worth of valuables.
Frightening.
And it's really stuff that they can carry. So a lot of the times where they're in such a short amount of time, they go right for the bedroom because they know that's where all the valuable stuff is. That's where the jewelry is. That's where the watches are, the wallets, the pocketbooks, the letters, the notes, the whatever it may be that have some real value on the street that they can then in turn get cash for to facilitate their addiction.
Yeah, Shawn, I've had some personal interest in this. Years ago when I was renting an apartment out in Malden, it was broken into, and you know, tell you, there's nothing that really makes you feel less secure in your own home than having it broken into. So certainly, you know, would like to know what sort of things, especially now with everybody being busy and, you know, having, you know, two working parents and the kids have all these activities. A lot of times, you know, parents, people are running from place to place and they just run quickly out of the house and they don't even think about, you know, how to make their house secure and how to make themselves less of a target for these people.
Right. Well, when we talk about home security, whether it be at your own personal residence, at an apartment complex, one thing that both inmates told us they look for are signs of maintenance around the building, around the house. For them, if they see that the grass is overgrown, the bushes are overgrown, paint's falling off the house, the shingles are off to one side, to them that signals that it's probably abandoned, or the chances are very low that they're going to run into somebody. Now, as I said before, they're looking for a crime of opportunity. They don't want to confront somebody. They don't want to go into the house and find that you're in there because A, they don't know if you're armed, if you have a weapon, if you have any sort of martial arts training. Also, they don't know if you're on the phone talking to the police. You know, they said as soon as they hear those sirens, they're gone. That's one of the best advices they give to people. They say, make sure you keep a phone close to you, whether it be in the bedroom, when you're downstairs in the living room, around the kitchen, try to have a phone close to you. Luckily nowadays, most of us have cell phones attached to our hips, and that's a good thing. You know, there's some bad things about having cell phones that are on you all the time, but that's one of the benefits of it. So that is one thing. They said signs of maintenance. If you just make sure that you keep up your yard, keep up your house, don't let the mail pile up. You know, if you go away on vacation, let your neighbors know. Let a friend know to come and pick up that mail because that really does show them that there's nobody there. They can probably get in and out. And you talked about just being busy, going back and forth, running about. Try to make sure that most of the time you keep your windows and your doors locked. even when you're home, when you're in the house.
Do you know, it's amazing how many people will still say in today's day and age, oh, I grew up in Mayberry,
Right. Yeah.
therefore I don't lock my doors.
Unfortunately,
Shocking.
it's not the same time period. Yeah. And that way, when you say, if you're in a hurry, a lot of times you won't forget to lock the door if it's already locked. If you make sure that you keep your front door locked, especially the windows and the doors on the first floor, make sure that those are locked. Even in the summertime, I know that people like to have the windows open for the airflow, to keep the temperature down in the house, but try to keep those windows and doors locked. It really is important.
You actually brought up a good thing, especially in the summer. Now we're past the summer now, but it's certainly food for thought as we go in all of our seasons. People have parties out in the backyard.
That's
Or
right.
they're out mowing their lawn out in the backyard. What do they do?
Yeah, it's amazing to say that just because you're home, that's going to be the deterrence for somebody breaking in. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Now, we're not talking about a violent break-in. This could be simple as, like you said, you're cutting your grass in the front yard and somebody walks up to you and says, can I take a second of your time? I want to talk to you about sealing your driveway or doing some yard work for you. And why they have you distracted at the front of the house, their friend is going around to the back of your house and letting themselves in the sliding door and taking something off the kitchen counter, taking your wallet, taking a purse, taking some sort of electronic device that they can carry and get a good street value. And once they're out, they give him the signal and he says, all right, thanks very much for your time, and they're on their way, and you probably don't know you've been a victim of crime until much later in the day.
Sure.
So it's a good thing you talked about barbecues, events in the backyard. A lot of the times people get focused on what's going on in the back of the house, they neglect the front of the house. And it can be tough for your neighbors, even if you're close with your neighbors. When there are a lot of cars on the street, a lot of cars in the driveway, it's tough to keep track of who's going in, who's going out, what they brought, what they didn't bring. So they recommend, even inmates say it, even in the summertime, make sure if you have something going on in the back of the house, keep the front door locked. Keep the windows closed, keep those locked, because it's very easy for somebody to slip in and out of the house with one of your valuable possessions.
Engaging in the home with a thief, what happens? I mean, you're in your kitchen and all of a sudden, you know, you're making the potato salad and all of a sudden there's a stranger in the house.
Yeah, this is the worst case scenario. And believe it or not, doesn't happen as frequently as everyone thinks it does. Now, just being a victim of a break-in, as you said you were, that's traumatizing enough. To come home and see your possessions all about, to find things are missing, it makes you feel vulnerable. It's scary. It's very scary. To have somebody in your house, to see them, to confront them, it notches it up a little bit. The best thing they say that you can do is do not confront that individual. As I said in the onset, they could be under drugs, alcohol, they could be very desperate people. You don't know if they have a weapon. The best thing that we recommend that you do is get to a phone quickly and then lock yourself in the bathroom. And I say lock yourself in the bathroom because
Has a lock.
it has a lock on the door. So that gives you a little bit of a buffer from the outside. And then also you have things in your bathroom that you can turn into weapons. You have shower curtain rods. You have a towel hanger, you have a hair dryer, you have makeup containers that are hard plastic or glass that you can use to defend yourself. And I also say that you're in a fighter stance, you're vertical, you're upright. If someone comes through that door, you can confront them. You know, they say find a good hiding spot. A lot of times people think a good hiding spot is under the bed or behind a dresser or in the closet. And it is good if they don't find you. The problem is if they find where you are. Think about how vulnerable you are. Trying to fight somebody face down under the bed, it's impossible. It's impossible. So, yeah.
They'd probably get me out with like I do my cat with a broom handle.
Right.
You know. Neighborhood watch signs. Every once in a while, you'll drive through a cul-de-sac or a neighborhood, and you do see the crime watch signs. Are those deterrents?
They are. Believe it or not, both inmates did tell us that is a pretty good deterrent. And I'm surprised because I feel that you don't see them as much as you used to. It's a good thing to have the community involvement because to them, even though it's a sign and you may say, you drive by it every day and you don't give it a second thought, somebody that's trying to break into a house, particularly at nighttime, they don't want to make a lot of noise. And if they know that there's somebody roving the neighborhood constantly with their guard up, or maybe the neighbors themselves look out the window, they check on each other, that tells them that somebody may be watching me. Somebody may have saw my face, saw my vehicle, saw what I was wearing, and then in turn give that description to the police. So they actually are a deterrent. Both inmates said it, and I was very surprised by that because I felt that had kind of fallen out of favor. But, you know, to know your neighbors, to have a nosy neighbor, not always a bad thing.
Right, right.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's, you know, they're looking for crimes of opportunity, and, I know that, sometimes people have house alarms, they'll have signs up, advertising there's an alarm there. And then I've actually seen signs that are just completely bogus, that are just, somebody can go to a store and buy a sign to pretend they have an alarm system. But though I wonder if I'm thinking thieves may know which ones are legit and which ones are not.
They are. When you make it your passion is breaking into houses, you pick up on those little signs. Not to say that they may not be a deterrent. You may have somebody that just comes across it, they see that, and that's enough to make them turn. The inmates that we speak to in our presentation, they say that is a 100% deterrent for them. If they see an alarm company placard or sign in the yard somewhere, that pretty much guarantees that they'll move on to the next house, because they are not going to risk the fact that they might be a silent alarm, an audible alarm, something that can trigger a police response automatically. With those, there are signs that you can buy that there's no system hooked up to the house. I would also say that if you can get your hands on one of the major security systems, ADT, Brinks, an extra sign, a magnet, a sticker, a lawn sign, anything like that to display around your property, that's going to be your best bet. Even though you don't have the system inside, that sticker alone may be enough to turn as a deterrent to keep them away from your property.
As a woman, I'm usually doing the family groceries, carrying the tote bag, carrying the pocketbook, going to the grocery store, getting into the car. Now, I always feel, from my perspective, that my most vulnerable point is taking all of these things now and transferring them into the car. But there are probably other vulnerabilities, like my pocketbook in the store.
Absolutely. The pocketbook, it's funny, if there's a hierarchy for crime, the inmates that I speak with, it all seems as if they started with stealing purses. And it makes obvious sense, because that's where the money is.
And
they
have handles,
They have handles, they're easy to run with. Yeah, you really want to safeguard that purse. We always recommend to the women, if you have that shoulder strap, a long shoulder strap, when you're in the supermarket, when you're doing your shopping, tie the shoulder strap right to the cart. That way, if anybody runs by and they try to steal your purse, it's going to knock the cart over, it's going to make a lot of noise, they're not going to get off with your valuables. Another woman told us that sometimes in the shopping cart where the child seat is, up top, there's a seat belt. You can actually secure your purse with that seat belt. Along with securing it, you want to make sure that the top is secured as well, because sometimes the crime will not be taking your entire purse, it'll be stealing your wallet, or stealing your checkbook, stealing your phone, and they'll just reach in and grab it. So you want to be careful. Make sure that's always either closed with a latch, with a zipper, something so they can't stick their hand into your purse. And also with purses, be careful how you carry it. Sometimes women will hold it very low on their elbow. Very easy for somebody to come up behind you and slide it right down your arm and off. Always up on the shoulder, around the head, so the strap comes across your body. That way somebody can't run off with it. They can't just quickly run by, grab it, and go. And then you say, when you're going to the car, they say, don't be overburdened with your possessions. If you're overburdened, you have no way to defend yourself, and you're more focused on the stuff than you are on your surroundings.
I'm saving my eggs.
That's right, Or you're worried, did they put the bread separate from the milk? Is it going to get crushed? And while you're worrying about that, someone may be watching you transfer those items into the car. So you always want to keep your guard up, especially when you're in a parking lot at nighttime when you're going to your vehicle. I always say you never have to go directly to the car. If you're leaving Market Basket at nighttime and you're heading out to your car and you're by yourself, you have a lot of groceries, it doesn't hurt to ask the bag boy, do you mind, can you help me out to my vehicle? That way, another set of eyes, another set of ears, there's somebody with you in the parking lot. You're not by yourself, you're not as vulnerable.
I know many of the parking lots now in the different grocery stores and malls have a lot of security cameras, but it's not going to help you in the immediate, because this takes seconds as I'm listening to you talk.
It is, It may not deter the crime from occurring. The nice thing is, though, hopefully it can aid in the arrest of the person if a crime is committed. One great thing that most parking lots have now are lights. If you can illuminate the darkness, this is how criminals like to operate for obvious reasons. They wear dark clothing. It hides their distinguishing characteristics, how tall they are, how fat they are, skin color, hair color, anything you can give to the police as a description. So simply by illuminating the parking lot, illuminating the area around your car, that does reduce the risk of a crime occurring. And the same goes for when you're at your house. If you park under a street light, if you have a sensor light or some sort of a light that you can keep on, that's going to deter crime.
Trunk, locking things in the trunk of your car.
You would think it's secure because people can't see into the trunk. And you would say to yourself, it's going to take a lot to break into a trunk. You have to get through that lock, usually a pretty heavy-duty lock. The problem is, nowadays, Most manufacturers put a trunk release button inside the passenger compartment, and criminals know this. In my presentation, I know that a lot of people have heard leave your purse in the trunk. They
Yes.
tell women,
Yeah.
leave it in the trunk because it's safe. They can't see it. They can't break the glass and grab it. Problem is, if they get into the passenger compartment, they're going to check your trunk because they're going to pop the trunk. They're going to go around. And it wasn't always the case. Before, you used to have a key for your ignition and a key for your trunk. There was no latch, so it was safer back then. But now you have to be aware of that. People talk about going to the gym, going to different areas where you're not.
The beach.
The beach. I always say take as less as you can, a driver's license and a credit card that you can keep on your person. That way you don't have to leave it in your trunk where it could potentially be victimized and be stolen from you.
Would the same be true for jogging, exercising?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you always want some form of identification on you, whether you're jogging, whether you're exercising. But if you have the option of just taking, as I said, maybe a license and a credit card, and buying one of those, they have those bands that you can wear and it holds it to the body, or you have maybe a pocket or put it in your sock or your shoe. You gotta be careful, sometimes it can fall out, but if it's deep enough, it should be able to stay in there. And that way you have a form of identification and you don't have a very bulky item where you feel, I gotta lock it in the gym somewhere, I gotta leave it in my trunk. Could be victimized there.
Social media. Does social media help us or does it hurt us in terms of being victims of crime?
I think it has positive aspects to it. You know, people are able to connect with friends they haven't seen in years, friends, family members that live across the country. It kind of makes it a little bit easier to transfer information between one another. Hey, we're going out tonight. Where are we going? You can take a unscientific poll. However, it does have some drawbacks, especially with children. You have to be careful what you post on social media because you may not be the only one. The only people that are seeing it may be someone other than your friends, other than your family. Be careful. I know we get nowadays where social media is so prevalent, you get in the habit of posting every little thing. A lot of the times you'll even post, going on vacation for the week, going to Aruba, and that's nice, and your friends know, and they'll get 100 posts saying, congratulations, have a great time, post pictures. However, someone may see that and say, oh good, they're gone for a week. Now no one's at the house. Now that's a time to stop by and try to get in there and get some of their stuff. So you have to be careful with that. Also, when we talk about kids, I think you said you have young kids as well.
Yeah, I have 3 kids, yes.
3 kids. You have to be careful about who they interact with. Sometimes younger kids, they won't realize that the person they're talking to online may not be the person they think it is. You know, we always say, just because they say they're a 12-year-old girl doesn't mean they're a 12-year-old girl. It could be a 45-year-old male in a basement somewhere talking. And you have to educate your kids about being smart on the web. Be careful about, don't send pictures to anybody. You know, really, we say whether it be over the computer, over the cell phone, don't send pictures because you never know who they're going to. I mean, look at what's going on now.
Or how they're going to be shared.
With these breaches, people stealing information on people's computers and distributing pictures of superstars all over the world in every newspaper. You never know. You have to be careful about that. You have to be careful who you trust because that information can be vulnerable, can be compromised.
And you had mentioned to me that just the information we put on our profiles sometimes can be a treasure trove of information for a scam artist.
A criminal, absolutely. A lot of times people can become non-judgmental about what groups they decide to join on Facebook or whatever it may be. And now you have people in that group have access to your information, and people want to post their birthday and their cell phone number and their address and their full name, all things that can be used by a criminal to inflict identity fraud. Nowadays, it's amazing what they can do with your full name and a date of birth. It's amazing how they can open credit cards, get access to your bank accounts, get access to your personal information with simply just that. So you really want to be careful. I know it's nice to have all your friends say happy birthday to you because you have it in your profile, but you have to think that a bad person may get their hands on that information and turn that against you.
Well, this has become a concern in the work that I do. I work for a company that makes financial software, and you know, one of the concerns they had was over these security questions. You know, you've forgotten your password, so you have to answer a question. But a lot of the questions that used to get asked were ones that somebody going to a social media site and looking up your information could find out. So that's why, you know, it was always suggested whenever you filled one of those out, you know, don't put the real answer, just put some other word that that you'll know that nobody else who goes looking
Sure.
for that information would know.
That's a great advice, absolutely. Yeah, be descriptive, be very vague with what you put on your profile as well. You know, you don't put the full birthday. You can maybe put born in 1985, all right? So you have the year, but you don't know the exact date, you don't know
Sure.
the exact month. It leaves it a little vague, and it's harder to, therefore, use the information against you.
And everybody talks about the identity fraud and gathering information through the internet, but in your experiences, there's still concerns, a lot of concerns with the fraud and accessing information through the mail.
Absolutely.
Somebody comes and grabs information, bills or whatever from your mailbox.
Certainly. I always encourage people, especially if you have checks that arrive regularly, whether it be Social Security checks, Medicare checks, Medicaid checks, if you have personal checks mailed from your bank to your house, they send you the check books, the book of checks. Make sure you get that information inside your house. If it sits around in the mailbox, if they get your hands on your Social Security check, they may have a hard time cashing it, but those personal checks especially, that has your routing number on there. That's a direct tie to your bank account. They can use that to get into your bank accounts, get into your other accounts that way, and withdraw your own money. You know, there's a big talk now with credit card fraud, with Home Depot and Target, numbers being compromised. I still say it's the best way to pay for items, because if that credit card is compromised, at least they're stealing Visa's money, right? There's gonna be fraud protection. There's going to be quite a lengthy investigation on Visa's part, on the police's part, because you have a fraud case. The difference is if you use your debit card is linked directly to a savings account, to a checking account. If that number is compromised, they're wiping your money out.
Yeah.
There's usually no limit. They can take it all the way down. And the problem is, this is the money that you rely on to pay bills, to pay for food, to pay for gas. It's going to be tied up for a long
Mortgage,
time.
sure.
Absolutely. And you're not going to have easy access to that cash. It's very stressful.
That's why most of my paycheck is deposited directly into an account that doesn't have ATM or debit card access.
That's great. Yeah, direct deposit's an excellent option too. If you have that option at work, it's great. Take it right out of the equation. Let them just transfer the money right from them into your bank account, and that way you don't have to worry about sitting in the workroom or sitting in your mailbox, whatever it may be.
Believe it or not, we're to the end of our show. In
Wow.
30 seconds, can you talk about MACE, OC? Because I know the rules have changed, and we just want to run through it quickly.
Absolutely. The law has changed over the last 2 months. Basically, in the short sentence, if you're over the age of 18 and you have a pretty clean criminal history, you don't have a substance abuse issue, no mental issues, you can purchase pepper spray over the counter from a licensed dealership within the state of Massachusetts. Before, you needed an FID card, same kind of process when you purchase a firearm. Now, if you are under the age of 18, you still need that FID card.
Okay.
But someone under the age of 18 can purchase it. The law was changed specifically to protect young women on college campuses and actually to reduce the risk of domestic violence.
Do you support buying it?
Shawn McKenna, absolutely, I do. I support somebody having it, using it to protect themselves. Yeah.
Shawn, thank you so much. Mike and I, you just gave us so much information.
Thank you.
Valuable, invaluable. I know both of us are going to go home and reassess what we have in our house and how we do things. And I think we're going to take a second look at how we operate in our own private
It's my
homes,
pleasure. I can't believe how
dwellings.
fast the time went by. Again, that phone number is 508-854-1800 to the Sheriff's Office. We love to take the program anywhere. You can see the full program, all the tips that the inmates give, and keep people safe.
Thank you again so much, and thanks Sheriff Lou for having you come.
I will.
And the Fitchburg Republican City Committee would like to thank you all for watching us tonight and sitting in with us as we talk to Shawn McKenna. Remember that your local your local city or town Republican Committee is your only grassroots organization that supports and holds dear your liberty and your constitutional values. We encourage you to join us. Why? Because we always stand for freedom. Thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight. Thank you. Bye-bye.
America, we stand for freedom. So let us all unite to yearn and strive for our republic that reflects our values, that preserves our rights, and goes forth in power and might, that reflects protects our values and preserves our rights, and goes forth